Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Fluctus Channel. As long as aviation has been involved with military forces, various tactics and maneuvers have been developed that benefit from air transport. This includes strategies such as paratrooping, where military personnel are deployed from the air to appear behind enemy lines or secure strategic positions. A clear example of this tactic is the historic deployments during D-Day during World War II. On this day, Operation Overlord took place, involving the airborne assault of more than 13,000 paratroopers in occupied France, facilitating the amphibious landings on the beaches. Over the years, these techniques evolved and adapted as aviation technologies improved. Such development started during the 1950s and 1960s. When the Air Force conducted a series of experiments that would prove key in the creation of the high-altitude military parachuting technique. As its name suggests, this technique is performed at altitudes between 15,000 and 35,000 feet, where troops, equipment, and supplies can be deployed, usually during covert operations. Troops that are deployed using this technique usually free fall until they reach 3,000 feet, when they will open their parachutes to reduce their visibility as much as possible and keep the cover. Considering the conditions where these maneuvers are practiced, these troops spend a significant amount of time training and preparing for these jumps. This training allows troops to become physically conditioned and acclimatized to high altitudes, in addition to learning parachuting techniques. These processes include familiarizing themselves with the kits each soldier must carry during their jump. These must be kept with them at all times. This is because these kits consist of the essential parachute, weather protective clothing, navigation equipment, and an oxygen system. For this reason, instruments such as the oxy-jump or phantom masks are used. These provide a regulated mix of oxygen at different heights and therefore adapt to changing pressures. In addition to these tools, paratroopers also condition themselves by inhaling pure oxygen to remove nitrogen from their blood, reducing the risk of decompression sickness. After following these procedures, the skydivers proceed to jump, knowing what type of maneuvers and actions they must perform at different altitudes. Usually navigating at over 120 miles per hour in free fall to reach their objective, and then opening their parachute at a low altitude. These procedures followed for low opening jumps are vital for covert operations and effective when the mission is time sensitive and requires rapid troop insertion. However, high-altitude parachuting practices can vary depending on mission conditions, so low-altitude openings are not always possible. This leads to another type of high-altitude parachuting technique called HAHO, or high-altitude high opening, which involves troops deploying their parachutes shortly after jumping from these high altitudes. This is used when an aircraft cannot fly above enemy skies without creating a threat to jumpers or the plane. The paratroopers open the parachute so quickly that they can stay in the air for more than 20 minutes. This is enough time to allow them to travel long distances and enter enemy territory undetected. Both low opening and high opening techniques require precise planning. Paratroopers must be experts at using navigating tools and being capable of adjusting for wind conditions to reach the landing zones accurately. The only significant difference between both techniques is the time the parachute is deployed. This affects the way oxygen is managed. As in high opening, paratroopers must remain in a low oxygen zone for longer periods, so their oxygen supplementation is longer. The great tactical utility that these air deployments have proven during the various operations carried out by military forces around the world over the years has allowed for the development of different methodologies that offer greater opportunities to create different strategies and operations, from the said high-altitude jumps to military freefall and static line jumps. Considering the complexity behind these maneuvers and tactics, in addition to the knowledge required of the various equipment used by paratroopers and support teams around these missions, the Air Force required the creation of a Special Forces team focused on specialized missions with deployable airmen. This gave rise to the Special Forces Operations Command, also known as the Air Commandos. Their highly skilled operators are trained and equipped to operate under difficult conditions with stealth, speed, and teamwork. Many of the tests these airmen must complete to consolidate themselves as air commandos involve freefall jumping training, where they become familiar with operations and deployments carried out from different aircraft, acquiring knowledge of equipment and tactics. Typically, the progression of these courses begins with theoretical knowledge, learning about ram air parachutes, emergency procedures, rigging procedures, repack procedures, etc. This is followed by wind tunnel testing, blowing wind at 150 miles per hour to simulate freefall conditions so that the trainee can learn body positions and maneuvers while in the air. Finally, such steps proceed with tests with instructors from aircraft. All of this is done to ensure that these soldiers are trained to the highest standards. In other cases, training must also consider the unforeseen events that can occur on any mission, whether due to technical or logistical difficulties or weather conditions. One such unforeseen event is a hard parachute landing, which can cause injury or worse if not managed properly. Therefore, during training phases, soldiers are taught to mitigate the risks arising from hard landings. They learn to assess terrain and weather conditions while in the air to identify the least damaging landing zone, avoiding obstacles or uneven terrain if possible. Once they are about to touch down, soldiers apply a technique known as parachute landing fall, which focuses on distributing the landing shock sequentially along 5 points of body contact with the ground, thus reducing injury risks. Similar procedures are followed when jumping over bodies of water, especially for amphibious missions. Here, soldiers have learned about drop angles, water navigation, and securing equipment while above water. In these cases, they may require additional equipment such as flotation devices, in addition to learning how to extricate themselves from their parachute once in the water. Often landing in unfamiliar and potentially dangerous locations, troopers not only undergo extensive training on entry techniques, but also learn to survive in potentially hostile environments. This is achieved through SERE training, which focuses on equipping service members with the skills necessary for survival. This includes finding food and water, building shelter, and first aid procedures. Also, there are the evasion and resistance components, where the soldiers learn how to avoid detection from enemies and how to prepare when interacting with them with standing interrogation. Survival skills like these are vital during the wide variety of missions the Air Force conducts, including insertion and extraction operations, typically conducted from aircraft like the CH-47 Chinook or the UH-60 Blackhawk. These procedures require techniques like static line parachute jumps or rappelling methods, where soldiers descend from helicopters using ropes. Those techniques allow troops to quickly deploy to the combat zone, especially in urban or confined spaces when fixed-wing aircraft are not available or impossible to use in those areas. Many of these techniques have derivations or modifications developed, depending on the mission conditions. For example, during extractions or even insertions, helicopters cannot land or get close enough to the ground. Hence the development of the spy system, to rapidly insert or extract a reconnaissance patrol. In spy operations, the troops are suspended from an abrasion-resistant rope, attached with a D-ring beneath a helicopter. Then, the group is moved like an external cargo, getting lowered to the ground while still attached to the rope. This method is part of the helicopter rope suspension techniques, which involve the use of some type of rope to deploy or extract troops. These include rapid rope descent, a rapid insertion method in which soldiers descend from helicopters using thicker ropes than those used for rappelling. This technique is ideal in confined spaces and allows for rapid troop deployment. However, it requires extensive training to properly master the technique. As aviation has evolved with the emergence of different aircraft and technologies for use by troops, airborne operation strategies have advanced and modified. Each of these methodologies has provided greater diversity to military tactics, from high-altitude launches to the implementation of techniques such as military freefall and fast roping. With the emergence of new technologies, these techniques are expected to evolve again. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our new content. See you next time.